All right, we are live here, USCFootball.com live broadcast. We do it every Thursday, about noon, exactly noon, and we get Shotgun, Spratling, and Keely. You are here right before the deadline. What's up, guys? How you doing?
Good.
What are you
How
talking
are
about?
you, Ryan? We never asked him how he's doing.
Oh, we don't even know how he's doing.
I'm doing all right. Can't complain. It took me a while to recover from that Tempe trip, like doing the just flying in, flying out. You guys, Shotgun and Dan drove in and drove out, so that was...
Dan was a warrior driving that trip. I was like, you need me to drive some? Because I could tell he was getting tired at the end of it. He started doing the shaking leg thing
Oh,
that you do
gosh.
when you're trying to keep yourself awake. I was like, want me to drive some? No, I'm good. All right. He drove all the way back.
Yeah.
I took a little nap, a little siesta, about a 2-hour nap on the way back. That was good.
Yeah. So if you're new, this is what we do every Thursday, do a live broadcast. So we're all part of USCFootball.com. Shotgun Spratling, follow him on Twitter at ShotgunSPR. Actually, you should put up a little graphic that has all our Twitters on there. I'll do that next time. So Keely, you can follow her. Keely is my name. Keely. Keely.
Key, yeah.
And you can follow me at Inside Troy. Of course, we're on our USCFootball.com Facebook Live. That's where we do these broadcasts every week. So I hope you guys enjoy them. USC getting a resounding win over Arizona State in the desert. Maybe not exactly what we thought it was going to be, guys, but kind of felt they could. And then, obviously, they did.
Yeah, I predicted a loss, so I definitely was off on that.
Yeah, you guys were wrong. I predicted a win and a Hail Mary. I think I was all the way right here.
No, you said that they would win on the last play of the game. That's far from what
I
happened.
said they would win on a Tyler Vaughn's Hail Mary. I didn't say that it would be the last play.
Oh, my goodness.
They probably should have had Tyler Vaughn's in on the Hail
Yes.
Mary to help knock it down. So I'm pretty sure I was right about all that.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Our boy Tyler Vaughn's.
Your boy.
He had a pretty good, my boy, yeah.
Now you're very open about it. Now you're just tweeting, like, quote tweeting things and saying, my boy. And
Yeah.
I'm like, wow. This
Tyler
is very
Vaughn's,
open.
man. He had a huge game, couple of touchdowns, over 100 yards. What'd you guys think of Tyler Vaughn's performance?
I thought he did a great job. I asked him if he was conscious after that second touchdown hit, and he said, yes, but I made sure to walk to the sideline quickly so I could sit down. I was like, that's probably a good idea.
Yeah, we were both right in front of that when it happened. and
It was gross.
It sounded
the
a lot.
noise.
I mean,
don't
it did
like
not
it.
sound good.
I think the picture I've got up there right now is right before the hit. I don't know if you can see it, Shotgun, but is that the one or is that the first one?
That is the first. That's right before the hit. That's the first.
There was
That's the
not a
second
hit
touchdown.
at that point.
Okay, so that
He's
was
about
not-
the guy that's on the left of the screen is the guy that's about to get a 15-yard targeting penalty and be ejected from the game.
yeah.
But
So-
Tyler actually told me afterwards that he was actually glad. I mean, that was such a phenomenal throw by Sam Darnold on that. There was another photo in that sequence at the very beginning. The ball is about like this over the fingertips. It's kind of probably a 2-inch space in between the fingers and the hands. But Tyler said that he was glad that he had a second to prepare for that, because if you see in that picture that he's looking and sees the defender coming, so he can brace up, he can tense his body up a little bit, prepare for that hit, rather than catching the ball and simultaneously getting hit, or having the hit come before he even gets down to the ground. Because I think he was actually able to get his foot on the ground, kind of brace himself to the ground before taking that hit. I mean, it was a pretty vicious hit, being right in front of it. There was no doubt there was a targeting in my opinion. I rewatched the broadcast and they're like, "Oh, it looks like he led with the shoulder, but he made." I'm like, "No, that was a pretty blatant one from our vantage point on that." So
Yeah.
they made the right call on that. That's you never know with the Pac-12 refs.
So if people don't know, you can put your comment on. You can tweet us. We've tweeted out the link to this, but you can also comment on the Facebook Live broadcast, and then we'll try to answer any questions or address any comments that you have. We'll talk a little bit about Arizona State. We want to jump into Arizona. One other thing. So Shotgun does a great job on these participation charts, and he put one out this morning. And the big kind of news this week, I mean, let's talk a little Porter Gustin, Shotgun.
Well,
Or Keely. Oh, yeah,
sorry,
go
no. I'm just going to add in a question already. Jason Kane says, so with no Porter Gustin, are we okay? Khalil is real.
Khalil is real.
He's real.
I'm just trying to figure out his nickname, because he was the high school Houdini.
Yeah.
I threw out the college Copperfield. I mean, he's like a magician back there. So I don't know if that needs to be it or something else. But he's so fun to watch. He was fun to watch in high school. You would see 3 pass rushers be back in the backfield, and you're like, oh, that's a 10-yard loss, 15-yard loss because he's going backwards. Somehow he pulls away from a guy, makes a guy miss, and then he takes off. And instead of he saved him from a negative play, he picks up 20, 40, 60 yards on a run. And he's doing a lot of the similar things for Arizona now. I think Chris Hawkins? Someone said this week they're like he's probably one of the best running backs in the nation. Playing quarterback. He's a big dude. He can take on hits. He can break tackles, and he's elusive too. He's a special player back there, and probably the biggest difference from last year. I think he started like 1 of 8 last year in the first half against USC because he did start last year, and USC kind of controlled and dominated that game. He had 1 drive. He had a rushing touchdown. I mean, he ran for 6 or 7 yards per carry. I think it was 6, 7, 8 carries for 40-something yards. So the numbers were pretty good there, but USC kind of dominated that first half especially, and they were able to, he didn't throw very well. The difference this year, he's been so accurate on his deep balls. I talked with Jack Jones yesterday. He said it's night and day difference. He didn't play him in high school, Long Beach Paul and Sarah, which those 2 teams are playing this week actually.
Yeah.
So a ton of guys in this game on both sides. We'll be watching that on Friday, that Sarah Poly matchup as well. But he said the biggest difference is just the touch on his deep balls. He said he's got a huge upper body. He can make all the throws. He can throw the ball 60 yards, whatever it is. But the fact that he can combine that with the leg talent just makes him a special, unique player that USC is going to have to shut down if they want to win this game.
But back to the original question.
Well, hold on real quick. I actually ran into Khalil Tate's mom at CVS this week, which is crazy. On my way to practice. She works at CVS right near where I live in Redondo Beach. So very nice. It was Halloween. She was all decked out in the Khalil Tate jersey that her son had given her. Now her jersey had just Tate on it, and now he's got K Tate because there's another Tate on the team. But she had the Arizona hat, nicest lady in the world. She's very proud of her son, and a lot of people in her family with Sarah, and she's very happy to see how well he's doing right now.
Basically, you harassed a lady in CVS.
I did. I went up to her and said hello. She knew who I was, though. She tweeted me. She said
knew who I was.
She did. She said, "Oh, I know Ryan."
Wait, who else is on that Arizona squad? Misha Tate, Sharon Tate.
I don't know how many other Tate. Yeah. That's what she said. But the question was about
Porter Gustin. And now the comments are like, what's wrong with Porter Gustin? What's happening? So we need to address the Porter Gustin.
No, we'll just skip it. We'll skip it the whole time.
Okay.
Just make it a mystery.
No, continue. Okay.
Here's a picture of Porter doing some work in the Arizona State game.
So it looked like Porter was going to kind of be used as maybe a third down specialist, kind of a pass rush specialist in this game. He was rusty. He said that he was rusty, after not having practice at all, basically. He did some work on Thursday, Clay Helton had said. He did some work.
Okay, yeah.
On Thursday, that's what he said.
Okay. He basically
it was a game-time decision.
He hadn't put pads on in 6 weeks, basically.
Yes.
The last time he had pads on was the first half of the Texas game.
He's played very well in that game.
Yes.
2 sacks back-to-back, and then he left the game, did not return. And we find out later he's got a torn bicep and toe injury, was re-injured. Well, it appears that's happened again. It looks like he's re-injured the toe once more. He was not at practice this week. He was in the game. It looked like he was going to be, maybe a third down specialist in that game to begin with. And then his play count just kept rising. He played 5 plays in the first quarter. The second quarter, he played 15 of the 17 defensive snaps. So there's the 20 plays. On Thursday, when Clay, said, hey, he did some limited work. It's going to be a game-time decision. He was asked, is he capable of going, full board? No, we want to limit him. 15 to 20 plays probably it. Well, they went 15 to 20 in the first half and then kept going. He played 15 snaps in the third quarter.
Well, the game was close, though, Shotgun, right? The game.
Yeah, real close. It was, 31-10 at halftime?
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, it was 31-3 before a Hail Mary at halftime. And it's okay, so, they drive the ball down. It's 31-17. USC immediately answers. So you go up 38-17 before you're putting him back out there for the second drive in the second half. and they keep using him. They use him a lot in this. I think there were 26 snaps in the third quarter defensively. Played 15 of those, and then he's still playing in the fourth quarter. You're up by I don't know how much, and you've already pushed this guy 15 plays past what you had scheduled him for to be his maximum limit at 20, and now you got it at 35, and you still got him in the fourth quarter. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. You don't seem very happy about this, Shotgun.
It's not.
It's like a Keely rant. I like it. It's good.
In my opinion, it's an unwise decision.
Yes.
If you have decided before the game, this is how many, the medical staff, you've come together on this decision, 15 to 20 snaps. Now, maybe, we don't know, maybe they changed that to 40 snaps. That's a possibility. We haven't been told for sure. I highly doubt it.
But why would you even do that?
I highly doubt it.
It doesn't,
Yeah. There's been, two questionable decisions with Porter Gustin. Playing against Texas 4 days after foot surgery, toe surgery, and then coming back. And the fact that we hadn't seen him at practice at all, and this is the first time you're putting on pads, I don't care what the doctors say. Like, yep, you play some plays in the first half, you don't need him anymore, he's out. And
especially with the score of the game, it just didn't make any sense, in my opinion, to have him still out there. And he looked fine. He was playing. It's not like he was super gassed or you know, hunched over or anything like that. He looked like he was, fine out there. He said it was a little rusty, but it just doesn't make any sense to overuse a player that should be limited. You're bring him back slowly. And Clay Helton said several times in the past, we don't want to rush a guy back from injury. He's been out for 6 weeks. You don't necessarily need him at that point in time in the game. Jordan Iceful was playing fine. You still have Connor Murphy and Wole Batiku. It's not like they were mounting this furious charge in the second half to come back, and instead they kept him in there, and it appears that through whatever cause, he has been re-injured, and he may be out multiple weeks once again.
Which is just, if you're a Trojan fan, that's frustrating because you could tell what a difference Porter made on the defensive line. We don't know if he re-injured it, when he re-injured it, if it was in those extra snaps that he shouldn't have had. What if you have him back for this week? It's those little decisions that could be bigger than what they need to be.
Yeah, and you saw how much better the defensive line looked with Josh Fatu back and Porter Gustin. Yeah. And that was kind of the question I asked all the defenders that I talked to after the game. Wow, it's night and day. It makes a big difference. There were a lot of superlatives thrown at this is what our defense should look like, and this is what our defense can look like when we're all healthy. Well, now you lost another starter again.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about? So I obviously agree with you. Just a poor decision overall. What do you think the Hail Mary had to do with it? Where if it's 31-3, does he come back? But it's 31-10, and then they score and make it 31-17, and it kind of does it force their hand, or does that give them reason to play him longer than he should have played?
I mean, it's possible because maybe you get to the backups sooner. The backups played the last 2 drives. It was only 4 plays because you got a pick 6, and then they were running the clock out the very end. I mean, Arizona State had 7 plays in the fourth quarter, offensive plays. They had 3 straight sacks by Uchenna Nwosu, a first down, a pick 6, and 2 runs to run out the clock. So maybe
that was the fourth quarter.
The fourth quarter, yeah. Okay. So maybe if you're up, 38-3 after you score the first time you get the ball, or even 38-10, maybe that you push that up to putting the backups in the last drive of the third quarter or something like that, and then you don't see Porter Gustin for those extra. Let's see, he got 5-7 extra snaps in the last drive of the third quarter and the beginning of the fourth quarter. So, I mean, you obviously, the more points you have, the sooner you're going to put in backups. So it played a bit of a factor, but the fact that they kept him in there and they were up 38-17 tells me that it wasn't that huge of a factor into it.
And the way the offense was playing, there wasn't, even if I would be more okay with putting in the backups and then say they came back, then putting Porter back in. The way the offense was playing, the defense was doing well. It could have survived without him. I don't think so.
And I would separate Porter from the back. I think what needed to happen was Porter separated from the backups. I'm just like, he should have come out before the backups and stuff went in. It should have been a specific special case for him. I'm wondering if they would have taken him out, not to put the backups in yet, but if it was 31-3, maybe that Hail Mary has something to the decision. But just another one of those questionable things, and you hate to see that. Obviously, USC could use him because Khalil Tate, like what did the person that wrote in said, he's for real.
Khalil is real.
Khalil is real. So not having him in there, who knows? This is not a great Arizona defense, but man, they can score the ball, and they've crock-potted some teams where they just keep scoring and scoring, and you just can't keep up. Now, USC should be able to score and score too. I mean, who knows? Maybe this keeps going back and forth, but not having Porter Gustin in there, he helped Rasheem Green, and Uchenna and Wusu get a lot of those plays. So, it's unfortunate.
And you're going to be facing the read option once again this week, which they really struggle with against Notre Dame on the edge. Part of the reason why Jordan Iosefa was moved to the outside linebacker, so you could have somebody more athletic than Christian Rector was at that time. So Porter has a little bit more athleticism than Christian Rector had. He can play a little bit more on the edge. So maybe you would see a little bit of variance there rather than probably having to go with Jordan Iosefa most of the time this game, I think, just because they want to match up athletically with Khalil Tate on the edge. So I think that's going to put even more onus on Iosefa this game because there's not a true backup behind him in this game that they want to go to defend against that type of play. I don't think they feel comfortable with Connor Murphy or Willie Batiku on the edge, or those guys would have probably already been in there, I think.
Is that concerning at all?
I think it's partly just the fact that they're facing the read option. I think I said this earlier on the board. I think you could see a reversal of where Jordan Iosefa is on the depth chart at that position next week because when you face Colorado and you face UCLA the next two games, those are not as mobile of quarterbacks as Khalil Tate. So I think you could see those guys earn more playing time in those games because it's less about the read option and defending the quarterback on that edge as it is going to be this week for sure.
See, before we jump into the questions, one other guy I think we have to talk about because he had a monster game is Ronald Jones. Huge, 216 yards on 18 carries, I believe. I mean, he had 19 touches in the game, or 18 or 19 touches. So I actually talked to Dylan McCullough a little bit about that. And, and he's just not good. You figure if he's a guy that can get 25 touches, I mean, that'd be insane what he's able to do. They kind of always keep him in that 17, 18, 19 range. But this was one of those breakout monster games for Rojo.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Yep, that's all I got right now.
It really helped the offensive line open some holes up. I mean, the first touchdown run, he barely gets touched. The 64-yarder, I believe, or the 67. The 64 came later. And he did break some tackles on that one. It looked like Andrew Voorhees was trying to tackle him. I mean, maybe Andrew Voorhees was just upset he didn't get the sack on Sam Darnold a little earlier.
Yeah, he was very close to that sack on Sam.
When Sam just ran into Andrew Voorhees and bounced off. But it looked like he was trying to grab Ronald Jones on that touchdown run. He kind of just pushed him out of the way, I guess, and that kind of opened him up to get outside. Ronald Jones, if you give him a little space like they did, you know what he can do. Against Notre Dame, it didn't seem like he ever was able to get any momentum going forward. It seemed like their defensive line was in the backfield or past the line of scrimmage a lot. I think that was the big difference in this game on offense, is that USC, Sam Darnold had time in the pocket, and Ronald Jones had some holes to run through. Vi Malapai had some runs as well. So he had a career high before he got injured. So they used a number of guys. Ronald Jones has been kind of the bell cow back since Stephen Carr went down. I mean, it doesn't necessarily show in the amount of carries he's got, but the number of plays he has played has increased definitely over the beginning of the season. I mean, early in the season, he was playing 34, 40, 49. Then he got up to 64 snaps against Utah. I mean, wow. And they're using him. He had 39 of the first 53 offensive plays he was in. So he's the guy they've been relying on, not just, using him all around, not just carrying the ball. And then, I thought it was a really smart move on the offensive side to get him out of the game. He was 7 yards away from getting a career high. I would like to see him get one more carry. Say, all right, you need 7 yards. Go see if you can get it, just to see if you could tie or break the career high. But they got him out in the middle of the third quarter, and he didn't come back. We saw him a couple. He had the second long touchdown run. Then we saw him a couple of plays to start the next drive. and that was it. I think he had 4 carries in the second half.
Yeah.
He had 90-something yards on those 4 carries, so it's pretty good.
Not bad. But big day for Rojo, and Stephen Carr likely will be back this week.
I'm really curious how they're going to use the running backs, because Vi's kind of out, probably out, and then ever since Stephen Carr was out, they kind of went with the back a drive. But before Stephen Carr was out, they kind of, I feel like Dylan had more of a mix in there. I don't know if your participation chart say something else, but that's what I noticed.
I mean, mostly it's been Ronald Jones a drive, and then every once in a while they throw, occasionally they would give a drive to Vi, but it would be like 4-1, and then you would.
I just feel like there was more
mixing and matching in the middle of a drive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's probably true, because most of the time now it's been Ronald Jones, and then we'll start the 4th drive with Vi or whatever it may be. Vi in this game, in the first quarter, he only played 2 plays, and those were both third downs, or actually both end of drives. One of them was a touchdown, one of them was a third down sack. But then Cedric Ware started the next a drive in the second quarter, and then it just kind of bounced back and forth between those guys once Ronald Jones was out of the game.
Cool. Well, should we
let's do it.
Do some questions?
Chris Chapman said, "Who would be the best spy out of base or nickel?"
The best spy. What do you think? Shotgun.
Shotgun.
I don't know if they're. I mean, like a J.N.A. Harris or something, or I'm not sure.
It's hard. Athleticism-wise, I think a J.N.A. Harris is the guy you would want to use your nickel back. Keely Ross might be actually a good guy, and I think maybe that's somebody you'll see because they've used him as a dime linebacker previously, so maybe we see dime with him in there as the second linebacker, which is more of a, as a nickel formation with an extra DB as a linebacker. Maybe we'll see that something they've used previously. Ideally you would want it to be John Houston, but John Houston's got to get off blocks and do that to get to Khalil Tate sometimes, and that's not what he's best at, running side to side. So it'd be fun to see those guys, since they were Sarah teammates, going head to head, and maybe we'll see some of that. We'll see some of that definitely in the nickel. But I don't know if you necessarily spy with John Houston, whereas that might be something you can do with Keely Ross. Maybe somebody, maybe a different safety, maybe Jamel Cook, I think, would be a good guy to just chase after Khalil Tate. That'd be fun.
You got my attention. You mentioned Jamel Cook.
Or Bubba Bolden, another guy, a freshman that could run around.
He hasn't been at practice this week.
Unfortunately.
He wasn't feeling good.
But, those are some guys that I think a safety is a guy that you would have to do. Maybe Marvell Tell. I mean, I think it's going to take a safety, someone who's more physical than a nickel back like a J.N.A. Harris, because of Khalil Tate's ability to break tackles. So you want somebody who's going to be a sure tackler and can run.
Raymond says, how Stephen Carr is he going to play this Saturday?
We believe so.
Yeah, according to Clay Helton.
He seemed very confident. He said he can make the cuts that he needs to make, and Clay Helton said on Tuesday it depends on what happens after he has a full day of work on Tuesday. If he comes back out on Wednesday, and he did more work on Wednesday, which is usually a positive sign if you do more work after you had your first day in pad. So.
And he did that.
He did that.
My guess is he plays.
And Stephen Carr said he's 100%. I don't know if he's 100%, but he said he was.
Yeah, but he also said that he'd come back for the Notre Dame game, and he didn't. So take it with a grain of salt. Romero says, how much have you seen the defense prep for the high performance of Khalil Tate, and how have they prepped for him?
So you got Randall Grimes, who played some high school quarterback and big athletic kid. Pretty good. I think he's done a pretty good job of kind of mimicking him. But you also saw Dominic Davis, who, you don't see him a whole lot out there, but he's the kind of more elusive, shifty kind of guy. So they've tried some different dudes back there, with his speed, kind of mimics Khalil Tate. So they've tried some different things. Can you emulate what this guy's going to do? I mean, if you watch any of his games, it's just bonkers. It's video game stuff. It's really hard to emulate that. But they did add tempo periods to practice just to kind of get the tempo up, because Arizona does that a lot, and Clay Helton talked about that yesterday, that's something that they need to be ready for. So Keely and I think we're talking about it at practice, that they brought it back, I think, last week, But something you used to see all the time, like with Steve Sarkisian and stuff. So we just hadn't seen it for a while. But they're doing the things you'd want to do. Can you really emulate what Khalil Tate's going to do? Probably not. But
No.
They've been trying. Trying with Dominic Davis.
Very
I mean,
tempting.
you give the two different looks. It's kind of hard to put them into one,
yeah,
which is what Tate is. But Jack Jones called him Lamar Jackson 2.0.
Yeah.
Wow.
So run and throw. So
And then Isaiah Lemley was like, "That's good. I'm gonna steal it. That's what he's like." So, let's see. Matt Child says, "Is Rector out for the season?"
don't think so. Think
Yeah.
he'll be back. Broken hand, usually 4 weeks. Depends on what bone it is. 4 to 6 weeks. He could be back.
I'm a little surprised they didn't just club it and let him play. So I don't know if you guys are, but I thought with this,
Whoa.
I think it's because
Suspect.
it's not just broken. You had to have surgery on the hand.
yeah,
So maybe they don't want anything shifting or something like that, which is why I think in 4 weeks he'll be back for sure, which would put him at UCLA, around UCLA.
yeah.
Yeah. Tavita says, Juju doing his thing at Pitt. It's true. He's having some fun.
My Pittsburgh
In the NFL.
Steelers. He is. He's got more yards than the 5 receivers who were drafted in front of him. Now some of those guys got injured and stuff, but he had a lot of those yards just in the one game. He had a 97-yard touchdown, but he ran
Those
away
usually
from
help.
dudes. Yeah, he ran away from dudes. Like it was, even though he was kind of looking back, trying to make sure, but and he's having fun. So you got it. Like the NFL's a business. He's enjoying it. He's still being himself on social media. The whole bike got stolen thing. He's really embraced this role. His teammates seem to really love him. The Steelers do a really good job of evaluating like players as people, and I think they did a good job with Juju.
My favorite quote from that whole, the tremendous performance he had, nearly 200 yards receiving, was he said he kept looking back on that touchdown run. He said, "Well, I kept looking back because my Madden speed is 83, 84, so I thought they were going to catch me."
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's pretty fun. But he's still 20 years old. I think he's turning 21 like this month or something, or he might have just turned. But like when he started,
it didn't. It's still like November because I remember it was right before the UCLA game, his freshman
Yeah.
year. He turned 18.
he was 17 years old starting at USC for pretty much the whole season until, like Shotgun said, like right before UCLA. I mean, there's kids in high school right now that are like 19 that have been held back once or twice that he's like not that much older than. So it's amazing what he's been able to do as such a young player too. Like it's the era where people are held back, they're extra, getting all this extra work, and that's not Juju.
And speaking of the Steelers great Troy Polamalu will be honored at halftime of the game because he's going into the Hall of Fame. So apparently, according to Trojans Live, it'll be his first time back since his playing career ended.
Yeah.
So nice homecoming
crazy.
gift.
And Juju's actually supposed to be on Colin's show this week. The Steelers must have a bye or something. I don't know, but
Yeah, Juju posted something of being in LA, so.
okay, so maybe he'll come to homecoming too. But
Maybe.
he's going to be in studio with Colin Cowherd, our buddy, tomorrow.
He may be stopping by tailgates knowing Juju, so keep your eyes out.
Yeah.
Christian says, was Bubba Bolden supposed to have a significant role on defense this week? I thought I heard someone say they wanted to prep him this week.
I didn't say that. But yeah, I mean, there was potential for that. Like he could have been a good spy, I think, in this kind of case. But now he hadn't played a significant role if you look at Shotgun's charts. But
He had a big hit in the last game.
yeah,
He always has like one special teams hit.
Well, this one was on defense. Came across as a safety. But if he is unable to go, I mean, he's been unwell. That's all we know.
according to Clay Hill.
He's not feeling well. If he's unable to go, that puts another hole on special teams. I mean, you don't think about it, but losing James Tolan's really big because he's on a bunch of special teams. Losing Josh Follow last game, he's out of the boot now, but doesn't look like he's going to be available for this game. He's on a bunch of special teams. They had to replace him with Ruben Peters. So getting some holes, some chinks in the armor of the special teams, which is not good with the fact that the special teams hasn't been great to begin
No.
with. So you don't want to have to be putting in a bunch of backups and having to teach up new guys, especially when the special teams was pretty good this past week, down in a punt on the 2-yard line. They had a 51 career-long field goal for Chase McGrath. So some positives for the special teams unit. Janae Harris had a 21-yard punt return. And now you got to fill in more guys now. So if Bubba Bolden's not able to go, that's another hole that they'll have to fill. And they've also taken Isaiah Langley off of some things since he's having to play for Marshall. There's just a lot of moving parts. There's always I do a special section every week in the participation chart called special teams switches or swaps or something like that, because there's always movement on the special team unit. Sometimes they reward a walk-on, let him get in there or something like that. Corbin Junty was on some kickoffs earlier in the year. But now you're seeing they'd had some pretty solidified units, and there's some guys going to have to fill in on those units this week.
And that's significant for this weekend because Arizona is very good at punt returns, very good at kickoff returns. They're pretty terrible at punting the ball, but sometimes they just don't punt the ball. So and they'll say, hey, it's 4th and 5 at the 50, they'll just go for it instead of punting the ball because they just don't punt the ball very well. So, but you can't. I mean, if USC is replacing a bunch of guys on special teams like Shotgun's talking about, does someone make a mistake and you give up a big return? Arizona is one of those teams that can hurt you, and they can score on offense. You don't want to give up a score on special teams too.
Himil says, this rush offense is as good or even better than Notre Dame that ran through our D-line like a hot knife through butter. Do you think from the ASU game that our D-line has improved? Also, there's no Rector or Gustin. You do have Josh Fatu back.
Yes, that helps.
And starting with him versus starting with Brandon Peely is a big difference, especially because Peely said that he got tired pretty much halfway through the game, which you have more stamina with Josh Fatu back.
And actually, in this past game against Arizona State, they used Malik Dorton more than either one of those guys. He actually played 31 defensive snaps, whereas Brandon Peely, I think, played 22, and Josh Fatu just coming back from the concussion and the injuries he sustained from the car accident. It looked like he was still a little roughed up from it. He had a bandage over his eye, so he was coming back from all that. He played 17 snaps, so they'll work him in more, which is a big thing to have him. It's a huge difference having a senior versus having a true freshman.
Yes.
A true freshman that's played football for maybe 4 years. So, it's going to be big having him back in the lineup. That's a big difference. I think that would have been huge for them in that Notre Dame game. But then on the edge, that's where there's going to be a lot of questions. They have to find a way to stop the edge runs, and that was what Notre Dame did so well in that game, in my opinion, is that they attacked that edge so frequently early that USC's safeties started getting wider and wider, and then when Josh Adams runs up through the middle, nobody touches him because two safeties went to one side, the middle was wide open. I think that's going to be key for USC. If you can stop the edge rushes, especially early, then it makes the offense more one-dimensional and the rush offense even tougher sledding for them because you've taken away such an important weapon.
Yeah, but I do think Porter Gustin is a huge blow. I mean, just the energy he brought back to the team, it helped get all those sacks, and so not having him against Khalil Tate is certainly not ideal.
Yes. Speaking of that kind of vein, someone said Clancy is stubborn, meaning he kept Porter in too long. It's Helton keeping 1s and 2s in games that are already done is a constant, like the Oregon State game. Someone said, when has the staff made any reasonable decisions? So as far as keeping guys in too long, 1s and 2s, how do you feel about that?
Well, it's funny. So we get some people kind of complain about that, which I'm more on that side where it's like, hey, I'd rather see substitutions happen earlier. But I get a bunch of texts and emails from our podcast saying, why doesn't USC blow these teams out more, and why don't they score more points at the end of games, which I don't really see as an issue. But there's people kind of complaining about both sides of that. But I do agree with whoever wrote in saying that, I think they could have done a better job substituting. For whatever reason, it's just something that USC hasn't done well. They're terrible with the quarterback substitutions. There's so many opportunities that they've just overpassed. And then not playing up to expectations and not beating teams by more points than you should have. I think that contributes as well. You agree, Shotgun? Or you get the people complaining too that like they should kill them at the end of the game? Like,
yes, sure. Constant.
I would like to see them sparsely put in guys more. I would like to see Levi Jones get 5 snaps in a game. I think it's huge for the development to get a couple snaps. Now, when you do that, you're playing somebody like Mike Leach. We saw when Clancy Pendergrass tried to make some adjustments, he moved Matt Lopes down to the box. Mike Leach ran right at him. So
Yeah.
that's the threat you have. And people at that time in that game were like, why is Matt Lopes in the game? Why is it? Well, you wanted the backups in. That whole drive, that drive before halftime was, I think Clancy used like 17 or 18 different defenders. It was the most he's used in a drive probably in his life. There were people complaining, like, oh, we can't stop him for anything. Well, you wanted the backup. You've got to make up your mind now. You can't complain that the backup's getting beat and want the backups at the same time. There's got to be that balance. Obviously, you want to see those guys, get a couple plays here and there. But then when they, if you put in Jamel Cook and he gets beat deep, then are you going to complain about him getting beat deep, or are you going to complain about him not getting a play? You got to pick one side or the other. You can't be straddling the fence here, and that's the biggest issue I have with this complaint, is because once somebody else gets in and they're like, oh, he got beat, why are they playing him? You just asked for him to get in.
Yeah. No, I would like to see that happen too. I think you can get Levi Jones in for a series or something, like one substitution, or a Jamel Cook, get him in there for, and you see how they do it. I just think they've practiced well enough. You see them on special teams doing well that you'd like to see them. It happened with Quentin Powell. We talked about this before. It's like he's making all these tackles. They're having all these problems tackling, but they don't want to use him for whatever reason. So.
And I think the season has shown that you need to get guys development time and game time, because you never know when a Josh Fatu and a Marlon Tuipulotu are going to go out and you have to burn a red shirt and put in Brandon Keely. Like that stuff is going to happen, and if you don't let guys develop, you're going to have what you had in Notre Dame.
Yeah.
For the most part. Romero says, what's your take on the buzz going around about Sam debating on staying at USC if the Browns had the first pick? Lol. Any truth behind that?
Okay, so first of all, if you're talking to NFL reporters, hold on, let me go back to, I put up a
little photo.
So do that again, Shotgun, or? Yeah, so, okay, so we're around him all the time. NFL reporters are not. So it's not like if it's an NFL reporter that's like friends with the family and you're hearing things like that, like where would this come from? Like whenever someone's going to talk about a story or source or something, if I'm talking about, hey, a source I have on the Jacksonville Jaguars, like, well, who the heck does he know on the Jaguars? Like, do I happen to know some random person?
Marquise.
No, I don't. Yeah, me and Marquise, we followed him from. So we've asked him about this many, many times, and he says the same thing. He's going to make a decision after the season. I believe that's the case. I don't think he knows what's going on. I think a lot of things could happen. I think if USC played too poorly, he might want to leave because he doesn't feel like he's developing. If they play too good, he might want to leave because his stocks are going to be high. If they're kind of pretty good, maybe he stays. Like, I don't know. I mean, there's a whole bunch of factors there. But an NFL reporter who's not even like the top guy at Monday Morning Quarterback, for him to come on and say stuff like that, and people are like, oh my God, this, we've seen this happen a lot. I don't necessarily trust what those guys are saying, but
a lot of times he has nothing to do with Sam Darnold. It comes from the other side. So there's either a source with the Browns, like, oh yeah, we've heard that Sam Darnold doesn't really want it. It's like, and they try to, sometimes, especially in the NFL, when it comes to the draft, they start trying to downplay guys that they like. And they try to make that draft stock dip, or tell people that this isn't the person we're looking at for the draft, so that when they have an opportunity, someone doesn't pick them right in front of them, or how it goes in the draft, or someone trades up right in front of you, and you're like, that's the guy we wanted. So there's a lot of misinformation that comes out, especially about the draft with NFL. The other potential is that it's an agent. If Sam Darnold has said, this is the agent that I'm probably going to sign with or whatever, maybe that some agent has an idea. A lot of times, guys, that has to become a family decision, which agency you're even going to be with. And sometimes it's an agent putting misinformation out about a client that he isn't going to be able to get or doesn't have. So there's a lot of chances, there's a very good chance this is coming from somewhere way else from Sam Darnold. And the fact that you run with that source, that's where the question comes. And how much trust you have in that source that they're giving you this information. Being around Sam Darnold, this conversation came up yesterday at practice, and everybody was like, do you even think he knows what he wants to do yet?
No.
No, he is engrossed in the season. He is, trying to lead this team to the Pac-12 championship, and then he'll figure it out afterward. When we talked to him in the summer, he was like, Dan gave him the stat about how, the last so many quarterbacks that have been in the Super Bowl have all had so many starts or so many years starting in college. And he's like, oh, that's an interesting stat. Maybe I'll use that one. You know, it doesn't seem like he has a set goal that, all right, this is my third year, I'm out of here after this.
Yeah.
You know, it also depends on where is he at in his studies, where's the family. There's a lot of factors that go into it. And in my personal opinion, I don't think he has made a decision yet. I think that is something that's coming after the season. He'll sit down with his family and he'll figure it out then.
And his family is not the type that would come out and do it like a Manning thing and say, our son isn't going to this team. Like, if we've all been around their family. I just don't get any indication of that.
Also, that was my other point at practice yesterday, is that if he really didn't like the Browns, if that was the team, is like, someone said maybe he doesn't even like the color brown. If he doesn't even like the color brown, he doesn't want to be with the Browns organization, maybe he doesn't want to be teammates with Cody Kessler anymore, then all he really has to do is pull the Manning. He can pull the Manning card and be like, I'll play anywhere but the Browns. He could do that. That's not in his nature. That doesn't seem like the type of kid he is. However, that could be the trump card if he really, really didn't want to play for the Browns.
Yeah.
So no, don't believe in that.
Don't believe it.
Jason asked, did we switch play callers? What made the offense click last week? Ryan, what you got, dude?
No, they didn't switch play callers. It did seem to run smoother, which is a good thing. Dan Weber talked to T. Martin about it after practice. He seemed all smiley, but wasn't saying anything significant. My guess is that there was probably less hands in that same cookie jar, and it just ran smooth. It helped when the offensive line's blocking, everything's going too, but it just seemed like it ran smoother. So was there everyone kind of picking and putting their input in? My guess is probably not, but they're not telling us specifically. But good question.
When the offensive line plays well, play calls become a bit more negligible.
Yeah.
We brought up the UCLA game earlier, a couple of years ago when USC played at UCLA before we went on air. When USC played during the day against UCLA at home, and they just ran the ball over and over in the fourth quarter, completely made the defense submit, basically. They ran the same play like 7 times in a row at one point. And Zach Banner told Takarius McKinley, is like, I'm running right at, like he was just destroying him play after play. And, he kept yelling at the sideline, like, run it behind me. And they did. They just ran the same play over and over. And they just completely demoralized UCLA. They were too small on the defensive line. They couldn't stop them at all. And it didn't matter what the play call was. You've run the same play. It doesn't matter. The famous high school coaches that, would run the veer, and it's 4 plays. And there's 2 plays off. There's 6 plays in the playbook, and they are really successful because you do them well. Yeah. And when the offensive line plays well, it makes things a lot easier for an offense coordinator and a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Keely, we got a fired up shotgun today. What do you think?
We do. I don't know.
What's your podcast?
Did you have too much?
No, I slept 3 hours.
What's your podcast going to be like today?
I think we're switching roles. I'm more low key today, and he's just like, ha! I don't know.
Nice.
Also, shout out to Chris Brown. Apparently, he had a 102 fever during the game.
Crazy.
Flu game. #
flu game.
And if you rewatch and watch the Sam Darnold option keeper, the one he runs for career long 36, 39 yards, Chris Brown blocked a guy 15 yards down the field. He was on the opposite side that Sam Darnold ran. But Darnold crisscrosses behind him because Brown has a guy and he's still pushing him back. Takes out a ref as well, so he blocked 2 guys on one play: the umpire and the defensive lineman or linebacker that was in front of him. So, really nice block there for Chris Brown. Another really nice block was Randall Grimes. Later in the game, had a 15, 20-yard block down the field on one of Matt Fink's runs.
What about Stephen Mitchell's
the backup block.
That was so beautiful.
That was pretty awesome.
I love that.
I tweeted it out, and I probably said
I told somebody this. I did this in high school because I didn't know what to do. Because if you watch when Stephen Mitchell's running up, what he sees is this part of the defender.
Yeah.
When you see that part of the defender, you can't block him because if you hit him here, you're going to get blocked in the back call. So I did this in high school. I was like, okay, I'll just kind of get in front of this guy and just slow down. And then when we went to film study, the coach was like, "That's a great job, Shaka. I'm like, okay, thanks." And then Stephen Mitchell was just like, "I'm just gonna hit the air brakes right here," and then the defender was like, "Whoa, what happened here?" And he pushed Stephen Mitchell in the back, and Stephen Mitchell catches up with Ronald Jones to help celebrate.
Watching it live, I was more impressed by Stephen Mitchell than I was Rojo. I was just like, wow, that vlog was crazy. Brian says, is this game a must-win game for the current coaches to be back next year?
I would say not a must-win game for them to be back, but I mean, if you lose, then there's a lot more talk about them potentially not coming back. So you win the game, it's essential. Like the magic number would be 1. USC would have to lose both games, and Arizona State would have to run the table. Like if USC wins this game, they're essentially going to be the Pac-12 South champs, barring some crazy scenario. So, but yeah, to lose it, you're most likely not going to win the Pac-12 South, and then yeah, there'll be a lot of talk because that's obviously with the huge rankings coming in, number 4 or whatever, number 5 in the season. That's all kind of gone away. There's no playoff, but you can still win the Pac-12 and at least win the Pac-12 South. And not doing that as being the runaway favorite would not reflect positively, I guess you could say, on the coaching staff.
And Lynn Swan's made it kind of clear that winning a Rose Bowl wasn't acceptable.
Yeah.
But he wants national championships, so he obviously
wants you to win the Pac-12.
He wants Pac-12 championships, and if you can't get in the game, maybe we have to remember that Clay Helton is not Lynn Swan's hire.
Yep.
Yes.
So there's always the chance, and a lot of times with athletic directors, especially young athletic directors, young as in career years as a green athletic director, I'll put it, that he wants to make his mark. A lot of times, green athletic directors want to make their mark. So if Clay Helton can't win a Pac-12 championship, does Lynn Swan say, hey, I'll go find somebody who does? That's still a possibility. So I think this game's big for the coaching staff. I don't think it will cost him his job, but just win and don't worry about it.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's embarrassing, if like Khalil Tate runs over USC and then they're out of the Pac-12 South, then yeah, I think that's definitely not good.
Yeah.
But
I think Lynn Swan too kind of has like a fan view sometimes. Not that, I mean, he's not taking it from he's an administrator there, but he sees the games too, and he knows there's games that USC probably should have played a lot better in and probably have dominated. And if you're a coach, you can be like, hey, we won the game, you move on. But there's still not this great feeling about how the way they've been playing. They played good twice all year, right? Stanford and Arizona State. So if they can put another one together and then get on a string, then I mean they'll be fine.
Just gotta play music on Fridays.
Music on Fridays fixes a lot of things.
William Papa says, it seems like many of the issues stem from Helton not asserting himself as a head coach. Just like Porter Gustin's play count, I get the feeling that Clay is swayed by others, assistants or players, maybe even media and fans. What do you think? What do you all think? And do you think this is just part of his evolution, or is he wishy-washy? I disagree.
What do you think?
In the sense of, I feel like the reason why you didn't see Sam Darnold start in the beginning and why you saw Max Brown as long as you did was because Clay Helton was stubborn. And why you probably saw the older wide receivers this season is because Helton's more the give the vet guys their chance. Whereas maybe that's not the smartest idea. I don't know. What?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's some stubbornness there, but I think a lot of it is when you hire someone that's never done the job before, there's going to be learning. So he doesn't have 10 years ago we had this situation and I had this veteran quarterback who all on paper was good, but man, the young kid everyone wanted to start him. And I started the veteran and it didn't work out. Now, 5 years from now, Clay Helton might be in the same situation and he plays the better quarterback. So I think just a lot of it is inexperience, but there's, coaches are stubborn by nature too. They make decisions. We all make decisions every day, right? Whatever you do, you're making a decision. And there's reasons behind the decision. Were the reasons to start Sam Darnold over Max Brown or Max Brown over Sam Darnold really good? No, but there were reasons. But then you look back and you go, yeah, I was probably focusing on something that wasn't as important as this guy's the better quarterback. Or, hey, this receiver catches the ball way better. It's probably a better reason. And this guy blocks a little bit better and he's been around the program a longer time. You know what I mean? So there's reasons for your decisions. He has reasons, but sometimes you're prioritizing certain things that aren't necessarily what should be important as far as helping the team win.
Yeah, I had reasons for going to 4 different Taco Bells yesterday to steal a taco. Thanks, Cameron Maben.
Yeah.
For that stolen base. Was only one stolen base the whole series?
There's a couple more.
Oh, there was a couple?
It only matters that they steal one.
Oh, you only get one. Okay.
No, if they stole 10 tacos, oh yeah, I'll show up for my 10 tacos, please.
Nice.
Tester Troy says, question for Ryan.
Oh.
Since you clearly have an eye for wide receivers,
I do.
do you see
Ooh la la, wide receivers.
who do you see being the next guy stepping up as like Tyler Vaughns?
On the team right now?
Yeah.
So I'm a little surprised that we haven't seen more from Joseph Lewis. I like Michael Pittman. I'm not as high on him as some of the other people are that are really, really. I've just always thought Vaughn's, and I think it kind of stemmed back from I liked him in high school, and Keyshawn Johnson was on the sideline. We were like talking about some 7-on-7 thing, and you always see Trayvon Sidney making all these one-handed catches and stuff, but just he never really kind of did that in pads. I thought Vaughn's did. Keyshawn was like, I don't like Vaughn's. He's not this. He's not that. And I think his son was still around too, getting recruited, so he might have been like in the mode of like maybe knocking down some other receivers. But I was like, okay, well, obviously Keyshawn Johnson will forget more about wide receivers than I'll ever know, but I still think Vaughn's is a good receiver. And then you're seeing him, and I think this has been a point of contention because we've seen these guys a lot. We've seen guys at like a David Osbury or a Jordan Cameron be really good in practice and do all these great things, and then they don't get in games, and then people kind of get on us like, what the hell, you don't know what you're talking about, and then they go on to make a Pro Bowl when they leave USC. So I'm glad that didn't happen to Tyler Vaughn. He's actually kind of getting his run now. But for the guys on the team, I mean, I think Joseph Lewis, there's a lot of upside there. It took Tyler Vaughn's like a year to kind of get used to college, and I think maybe you're going to see the same thing with Joseph Lewis. They're not redshirting him, so he's kind of getting some action, but I think that redshirt helped Tyler Vaughn's a lot. And Joseph Lewis would probably be my pick for the next guy that hasn't really done much that has a high ceiling.
Yeah, and Lewis has been nicked up. He's missed a couple games because of injuries, so that never helps with your development as a freshman. I think Michael Pittman showed some things in this game. I mean, breaking tackles. You put a nasty stiff arm on a dude and put him in the ground, and then it still took 3 more guys to get him down on the same play. The long touchdown run that was called back, he caught the deep ball even though he was out of bounds. If that throw was a little bit better, a little bit farther inside, maybe that's another touchdown. Thought he had a really nice game in that game. I don't think he usurped Tyler Vaughn's like people on our message board necessarily wanted to think, just because he actually finished with, I think, 3 catches for 29 yards or something, 2 catches for 23 yards.
Yeah.
So his numbers weren't great, but he did some nice things stepping in. Stephen Mitchell actually played more snaps than Michael Pittman, even though Pittman was the starter. Stephen Mitchell still earned, it was basically 50-50. They basically rotated every other drive. I think you'll probably see that again this week. Stephen Mitchell still hasn't practiced much this week at all, so they're still being hampered by a shoulder injury. So I think Pittman has an opportunity to gain more playing time. If he has another nice game this game, then even when Stephen Mitchell gets fully healthy, I think you'll see those guys splitting those reps versus Stephen Mitchell coming back and taking over and being a 2016 where the starters play the entire time.
Yeah.
I think Joseph Lewis has all the potential. I think Randall Grimes has a ton of potential
too. Yeah.
I think he's still got to get used to the playbook and all the things that they want. I think you're going to see him potentially be one of the guys step in on special teams this week and possibly earn some more opportunities that way. I think he has a ton of potential just because he's tall, he's athletic, he can run really well. So once he gets everything down, I think he's going to be a guy that can be another guy you look back and be like, why was this guy a 3-star? Kind of like Deontay Burnett. You're like, he catches everything and he can do a little bit of everything. Why is he a 3-star?
Yeah. Some of the fans they'll fall in love with the measurables and they'll say, Velus Jones, he's so fast. It's like, yeah, but he's not catching the ball. Maybe he does, but at this point, no. Where like a Pittman's huge, so they're like, oh, we want the big receiver. I want to see Mike Williams or I want to see Dwayne Jarrett again, and it's just like.
Problem is they don't throw a lot of those big receiver routes. There's not a lot of fades to the end zone. When you're in the red zone, I mean, you'll see a couple deep balls like they did on the one where he stepped out of bounds. That's about close as you get, and that was a 30 or 40 yard pass versus you're on the 5-yard line, like we'll throw it up to the big guy. They don't do that very very often.
Yeah, I like guys that catch the ball, and Vaughn's definitely does that. And he had a couple plays in practice yesterday where it looked like it was going to be a pick, like not a good throw, and somehow he like leaps in front and has these really soft hands. Like Keely and I were talking about, like a setter. When you're setting a volleyball, you have to like let it come in and push it back out. It's like kind of like you can't catch it, but you're like letting it come in. He does that when he's catching the ball. It's just like this soft. It's great. And he made some really. He always does in practice, makes some great plays, but he can kind of bail out your quarterback, like we saw with Darius Rogers doing last year. Like maybe a more athletic kind of Darius Rogers.
Indeed. Brian says, why does the staff insist on having Harris as the punt returner? He is just not good at it, ?
He was pretty good against Arizona State. I don't think it's going to matter in this game. Like I said earlier, that Arizona's not the team that punts the ball. a lot. They're not great when they do it, so it's probably not going to be like a 40-yard punt you can get under and catch. These, there were the stupid pitch to hit thing. There were a few more pitches to hit against Arizona State. I have no idea why you start Jack Jones on the road at Notre Dame, and he does pretty well outside the fumble, and then put a Janie Harris back. But they've seemed to, allow him, like, I guess they put it in, a little fire under him, like, hey, we want you to return the ball. And, they did that. So I thought they did better in this game.
Yeah, he had his season long, 21 yards. He had 2 other returns for 1 yard. So not much outside of that one. I would like to see him be more aggressive just catching the ball sometimes.
Yes.
Rather than letting it bounce. I think that's the biggest thing that people have been complaining about, and I think that's a correct complaint at times.
Yeah.
I also would like to see Jack Jones back there just because I think he's so dynamic in a small space. You can make guys miss. So as long as he can catch the ball, then I think he's the type of guy you want on a punt return. He doesn't have the best top-end speed, but a lot of times with a punt return, if you can make that first guy miss, then you can get a couple blocks and you can have a good return. I think that's something he's pretty good at. So I think his skill set's really good back there, but you got to catch the ball first.
Yeah.
Michael asks, it seemed like the pass set up the run last Saturday instead of the run setting up the pass. Is that what happened?
Yeah, for sure. So if you watched Arizona State's defense the past couple of weeks, they've done a really good job. I think the game plan was smart going in. They were kind of throwing those routes. They're just getting over the top and kind of, backing the defense off a little bit. So I think that they didn't run the ball really well early, and then that kind of opened things up. I don't like the whole like balance or anything like that. They just saw something that was going to work that I don't think Utah or Washington took advantage of. They did take advantage of it, and they just kind of steamrolled from there. But yeah, I think it was the passing game. They saw holes in the pass defense, and they utilized that. And I think one of the defensive linemen, Arizona State had switched up their defensive front and got a little bit more athletic. I think one of those guys ended up getting hurt too, so that probably hurt the front a little bit also for ASU.
Yeah, the first drive, USC had 9 plays that threw 7 passes.
Yeah.
So, Clay talked about how the first pass, even though it was a sack, they had someone running deep, and that was intentionally try to move the safeties back because the safeties have been playing up a lot the last 2 weeks and been making plays, and that was part of it. And they got over the top of the safeties a couple times.
Yeah.
And then the play that had the second illegal man downfield was kind of a mystery call because Chuma Adoga is basically straddling the 3-yard line, so he's not fully past it, so it shouldn't have been a penalty. With Deontay Burnett, they had a complete bust, and he was wide open. That was the type of things they were working the safeties over and over, and especially after they lost a safety on the targeting penalty to Tyler Vaughns. They took advantage of those guys. They moved them around. Sam did a good job moving them with his eyes as well. I thought that was the key for the defense. I mean, for the offense against their defense was to kind of move the safeties and make them do a lot more than they wanted them to do.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a few minutes left. Okay, so we try to get done by about 1. We can go a little bit longer.
We only have a couple of questions.
Okay,
so we're
cool.
Good. Tester Troy has a question for Shotgun. The offensive line, I watched the tape again and again, and we got exposed in speed rush and stunts again. Thank goodness for Sam bailing us out. But a grade for the O-line this week. We've improved to a C+ in my book. What do you think?
I give it a B-.
Oh,
Nice.
Maybe even a B. I think they opened some holes up. The physical beats that they had against Notre Dame were kind of replaced. There were a couple times where, like, one of the sacks that Christian Sam had, no one blocked him. They blocked down the left, and he just kind of ran right through the middle. And they're like, well, he's like, I guess I'll take this sack. Sure, thanks, guys. So there were a couple of times just kind of head scratchers. But overall, I thought they played much better as a unit. I thought they created some holes. I thought it was everything moving forward rather than moving backward. So, yeah, I'm actually going to give that a B. Maybe, I'll give it a B. I don't think I'm quite at a B+, but I think I'm at a B.
well, better than the original B-.
Yeah, I moved it up.
You bumped it up. Nice.
From our friend Jackson Safon, he says, I have a question for everyone. With the AP Top 25 coming out, is it officially basketball season? Hint, yes.
No.
USC's ranked number 10 for the first time since like 1974.
The basketball season starts in like 10 days.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And because of the way the football schedule plays out, I have not been able to get over there barely at all. So, unfortunately...
We're talking about priorities. There is basketball here, and there's football.
the boss, that's where I have to go for practice. So
Shotgun would like Jackson's our big basketball fan, but yeah,
we'll have some stuff on
we
basketball
will.
in the next week.
Shotgun
though.
does a really good job, of that stuff, but it's not a high priority.
I'll be stopping by there tomorrow.
AP top 10 though. That's pretty good.
That's pretty crazy. Let's see.
As the season comes, more preview stuff coming.
George
Yeah.
says, who ends up with better numbers, 2017 Sam or 2018 Fink?
I don't even know if it's going to be
Ooh.
2018 Fink, but
It's true. I'm
I
gonna
would- I
go
would
with
still go with
2018 Sam.
that's not a choice.
Ooh!
2017 Sam is a more solid choice. I'm going to pick that.
A lot of interceptions, a lot of turnovers.
Right,
That's the
but-
question you're asking.
But Fink
really.
might play like 5 snaps in 2018, so
It's true. That's why I'm taking 2018 Sam.
that wasn't a choice.
Let's see. Sorry, people are just putting their like straight up comments.
Oh,
Tom says, were there changes in the snap count against ASU? Shottington?
I did not.
yeah, I didn't ask
Pay
anybody.
attention
Yeah, I didn't
to
see
that.
any. That's interesting, though. It didn't seem like there was as much kind of get off.
They didn't
Okay.
have as much issue with the snap because they shut the crowd up really early.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you don't have to
It was a loud crowd though.
early.
Early, yes.
And then after USC goes up 14-3, it went. As Ryan said, there might have been a lot of people that were like watching at the bar, like, "Oh yeah, I'm
Yes.
gonna go over there as soon as I finish it." Oh, give me another one. Give me another one. Maybe
Yeah.
if they come back, I'll walk up. No. Oh,
I watched games on Mill Ave earlier in the day, and it was starting to fill up. But you could kind of tell that like more people would have probably been coming in if ASU started off. I mean, they give up 7 points to Washington, and that was like in the last 4 minutes of the game. Like they basically shut Washington out. So the fact that USC came out and started scoring was a little bit of a shock.
Daryl wants to know who's playing behind Langley.
Your fourth cornerback is either Ajene Harris and Keely Ross moves in at the nickelback, or Jamel Cook.
Yeah.
Probably Ajene Harris would be the first choice, and granted, I think it would depend on who goes down as well. If it's Isaiah Langley or Jack Jones, if one of those were to go out with an injury. Hopefully none, because USC's defense has had enough injuries. We, as a reporter, you just want to see the best team that can play, not all of the backups because everyone's hurt. It's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun when the story is, oh, this one backup stepped up, instead of, oh, this entire backup unit had to step up.
Unless you're Nico Follow.
Yeah, Iman Marshall had his
No,
brace
that's
on.
one backup.
Yeah,
No, I'm saying like 2 years ago when he was the fourth backup.
Oh,
Whatever.
that's true.
and
Yeah.
then he's started ever since.
Yeah.
Iman Marshall did
Oh,
some
you-
like DB drills yesterday. He had his brace on. I think one of the medical staff was throwing him passes and everything. So
Jalen Jones also saw some time at cornerback in garbage time.
well, that would be for the third corner, right? Not the fourth corner. That's like just the next in.
Jalen Jones.
No. I mean, for what you guys were just saying. Well, I think I just hit your camera.
Yeah, that'd be the third
Coming
corner.
up the rails.
Yeah, for the third corner. I think that I don't know if the question was the fourth or you said fourth.
No, I said backup. That's the only one.
Okay.
Okay, we got like a flood of questions.
Dang.
Mr. Troy likes to boss me around. He says, for all three of you, Keely, will you start us out with the score and how the game may go? No, I'm not starting
She
out.
doesn't like doing
Shotgun.
that.
You go
Wow.
first.
42-27.
Who?
USC.
Really? Okay.
Wow. What'd you say, 42-27?
Yeah, I don't think Arizona's defense is very good.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I didn't pick USC to cover the 7-point spread, but my gut's kind of telling me they'll win like a close one, like a 48-45 sort of thing. I think it's going to be a lot of points. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game.
Could be. Clote could also get hurt in the first quarter.
That's the problem. If that happens, then it's like,
It could happen.
I mean-
I hope it happens. I love
I know,
watching
I was
Clote.
USC's been does that though. Like they tend to hurt quarterbacks sometimes, right? Like it's been a thing. Not that you obviously you don't want to see something like that happen to him. He was always fun to cover in high school, great kid, and he's just tearing it up right now. But I kind of think he's going to get his Saturday night, but it just won't be enough. Keely, you don't want to have a
I'm indecisive. Surprise, surprise.
Oh, surprise, surprise.
I think USC wins a close one.
okay.
So that's all I'm going to say.
Like
So-
11-8.
Yeah.
So
3-2.
most likely Arizona just rolls USC like 55-31 because
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whatever I
'cause you
say
guys,
is the complete opposite.
Continue
So
being wrong.
sorry. That's pretty much it.
okay.
Oh. Oh.
Pretty much it.
Favorite meal at Chano's?
I
get the
asada nachos.
The tacos, but the grease is so bad, so I have to kind of like get it out.
Asada nachos.
I'm a burrito guy, so I always get some sort of burrito. Like I don't know if they have. I don't remember if they have a chili verde burrito. I like those, but some kind of beef chunk burrito. I like those.
Someone asked, "What's up with the black socks at home?" Who cares?
They're not having the black socks ever again this season. So
No, it was just a
calm down,
one-time
everyone.
thing.
It's just socks. It doesn't matter.
There has been a lot of recruiting. People are just like recruiting. When is the next recruiting podcast? So
We were gonna do one this week, but then I ended up doing the preview show with Jason Shear, and I didn't want to do 2 podcasts in a day. I'd already done a whole bunch of podcasts this week because I did the emergency one in the airport. But we'll try to do a recruiting one next week. I have like alerts that are popping up on my screen, like kind of behind, like I'm running the show here. And Jason Kane, like, does he have like a comment every 5 seconds or
Yes.
something? I'm
Yes,
seeing.
he
Okay, I'm just seeing like.
your baby looks very cute, Jason. In your photo.
I'm just seeing, like, I don't know why, but his like, keep popping up like on my screen, like over and kind of over again. and
Wow,
Stuff.
Jason.
Well, I think we got to let these guys do their Family Feud podcast, so that should come up soon. We didn't do any other podcast today, so if Keely can get it up, we'll have it up today for you.
I
Yeah.
can. I can
Yeah,
do
and
it.
so we'll put it
Also
up, give you guys a little bit
Instagram.
extra time. So probably no Friday podcast, but we've already done a bunch of podcastyles. If you go to peristylepodcast.com, that's where all of them are. Of course, uscfootball.com is where all of our content lives. A lot of videos. Make sure if it's stuff from this week, like Keely's one-on-one with Sam Darnold after the game was pretty cool. Make sure you go check that out. The participation chart, as always, there's a lot of really good photos too. Shotgun put up. I thought instant analysis. Dan and Keely did a really good job. This week's stuff.
That
So
was our second take at Arizona. That was our second take because we got like glared by the like mower guy. He was like, "Get off the thing," and we were like, "Okay." So
have to, like,
there you go, behind the scenes. And we asked them, but apparently the main guy in charge didn't like it.
he didn't like
Not
it.
that anyone cares, but there you go.
And the War Room should be really good tomorrow morning. Insider stuff on USCfootball.com. VIP, USCfootball.com members only. But go check it out. It's good stuff. So that's all we got?
That's all we got. Well, I mean, there's a lot coming in right now, but
Oh, sorry,
We
guys.
have the
Okay, we
podcast.
got to do this podcast. So that's Shotgun Spratling, Keely Eure. I'm Ryan Abraham. Thanks so much for tuning in to our little USCfootball.com broadcast. Arizona Week. Hope you guys enjoy homecoming, and we will talk to you next time.